been in the Welcome Center in St. Genevieve, you know Sandra Cabot. She is the Director of Tourism for St. Genevieve and the go-to person for all other little details too. And she's going to give us some good news today, I think. Yeah. Okay.
Well, happy to do so. There are so many people in this room who have been directly involved in this, and since I've only been involved in it for the past 5 years directly, I know there are many people who have been working on this for these 20 plus years, and I learn about new people that have played a role in this all the time, including this morning, which is wonderful. And so what I wanted to update for those who have not been here and directly involved in this, you know that on March 13th, in March of this year, the U.S. Congress officially approved and authorized a unit of the National Park Service in the Department of the Interior here in St. Genevieve. It will be known as the National Park Historic Site, and they also outlined the guidelines for that as a result of this document, which we're all familiar with. And if you haven't seen a copy, I have some copies here that you can look at after our presentation. So that was approved in March. In July of this year, next slide please. So in July of this year, we had a delegation here of the Regional Office of the National Park Service, led by Regional Director Cam Shawley, as well as our interim superintendent-to-be, Tim Good, was announced that day. And many local leaders and friends of St. Genevieve were here for a special visit by the National Park Service, at which they announced this coming event, that this would be happening in St. Genevieve. And then in the following month, on August 31st, next slide, we had one of the requirements in the authorizing legislation was for the National Park Service to form memorandums of understanding with the county and local government, as well as significant organizations in the community, both public and private, that have property interests that the Park Service will be interested in. And so, as we all know, this is the Amaro House, the Beauvais Amaro House, and here you see Donna Roush, and we have Jason Smith, our representative to Congress, and Roy Blunt, our senator, and seated there with the two hats on, that is Cam Shawley and Tim Good. I think Tim Good is actually signing the document right now. And the desk that they're seated behind was a very special participant that day, and this is a desk owned by Al Kaiser. And if you were with us last night at the Green Tree Tavern, there he is, I'm looking around. If you were with us last night at the Green Tree Tavern, you heard some more about that story. But we were able to have a very nice preliminary service here, and this was for the signing of these memorandums of understanding that again were required in the authorizing legislation. The next step forward will be when the first piece of property is formally transferred, and that piece of property is going to be the Amaro House, of course, and that will be transferred from the state of Missouri to the Department of the Interior, and we expect that that will take place in the spring of 2019. And so when that happens, the park will be established. Many people were thinking that when the signing ceremony took place, this was the establishment of the park. That was not the case. That was one step in the process that was requirement for establishing the park. And so we will be, as you heard this morning, we will be hosting a very large celebration, as you might imagine, jointly with the National Park Service and all of our friends and those who have been instrumental in this process over these decades. And that will be happening in 2019 at a date to be determined. And if there are people that you know of that have been instrumental in the process that you want to make sure that we include in reaching out, please notify us. You can let Jack know from the foundation office, because we'll have a very extensive outreach effort to try to bring those people together to celebrate with us, because it's been a long time coming. So, happy to answer any questions. I think everyone here in this room is pretty aware of all of the steps that we've been through so far and how exciting this is. From an economic standpoint, it will mean so much. From an historic preservation standpoint, it will mean so much. And certainly, as a result of all of the French heritage and early American, even the German vernacular architecture was mentioned in the report. So I also have a couple of copies of the first slide that you saw, this document, which was produced by the National Park Service and when they were here this summer. So it's a sort of a preview of what will come in the future. Any direct questions? Yes.
Is it still going to be a 13-acre park, including 3 French houses?
So that was the area that is at the heart of the designation. That was a proposed boundary, and it remains to be seen exactly how many acres will be in the park per se and the affiliated area surrounding it. They, as you know, I'm sure they are also looking for office space, and so that wouldn't necessarily be within the boundaries of the park. It may be at a location that would be more centralized. But that wouldn't necessarily change the boundaries of the park.
Keep using the word park, is that correct? Or is it historic site?
Well, it is a national park historic site. So there would be properties that would be directly owned, so you could consider that the park area, but there would also be the site and the affiliated area.
But the title, when we were doing, when the legislation was going through, the first thing they said was a site. And we said we don't really want a site, it's not one building. We wanted a park, and that's how the second batch of legislation, the second year came out, and it is a National Historic Park.
Usually think of parks like Grand Canyon and Yellowstone, historic sites or.
And the National Park Service on their visits here have noted that the St. Genevieve unit will be very unique because our buildings are spread out. It will be a national park historic site, so it will be made up of several pieces of property.
Could you go back to the first slide?
Of course. I say of course, and Bob has to push the button. There you go.
St. Genevieve National Historical Park. That's the correct name. It's not a historic site, which is a different designation of a different kind of unit in the national park system.
Well, I thank you. Thank you.
Second question, did I understand the title of the property goes to the National Park Service
Well, technically to the Department of the Interior, but yes,
from Amarillo, for example?
correct.
So the state of Missouri would pull up roots and leave.
Yes.
We've already signed it, I mean, we haven't signed it over, but it's already been signed to go to them when they're ready for it.
It takes an act of the Missouri legislature to transfer property from the state to the federal government. They only do it twice a year. We got it done very timely this year. In the end, or it would have been a 6-month delay to get it the next time. So from the state of Missouri standpoint, the legislature's done their job. Now they just got to get the bells and whistles and sign the deeds and all of that.
I was just thinking of the Ozark Scenic Riverways where you had Big Spring, Brown Spring, Alley Spring, 1965. The state deeded that property over to National Parks Interior.
That's correct. That's the same process we're
But
going
there's now talk that it might be desirable to come back the other way. Maybe Missouri gave away a real prize. I'm not saying St. Genevieve should go back, but it's kind of a tough one to handle.
Well, and I can't speak to the situation around the Ozark Scenic Riverways, but we took great lengths and took all the right steps to make sure that the information that was necessary to convey those properties was finished in the Missouri legislature in the spring session this year.
Well, this is probably separate, but over in Ozark Scenic Riverway, there is now the Missouri Park and Recreation tax or Park and Soil tax is bringing in sufficient revenue probably to do a better job than the National Park Service. The federal government, we know, is long out of money. And so that's where this transition backward might be coming from. It's just an observation.
Thank you.
I would like to point something out. Even within the state, we use the term historical park when it includes a site. It's not just for recreational. If it has historical added, then there's usually a site there that someone lived there or something important happened.
Right. Or in this case, multiple sites. like
Multiple
that.
sites.
Yes. So we hope that you will all be able to join us. We'll be sending out information about this whenever it comes to pass. And, you know, look forward to moving forward on this together with all the supporters that we've had over the years, and also preserving this for generations to come. Thank you.